couple months back, we were fortunate enough to take Raise the Bar High across the country to New York City for our first official off-island shoot. In this video, I wanted to share what I learned, the experience that I gathered, and what I plan to do better for the next time we shoot off-island. So we filmed cocktail videos in 2 bars, both located in Brooklyn. The first bar we shot in is known as Eavesdrop. The concept behind this bar is it's a hi-fi vinyl listening bar. One of my homies who lives in New York City, who is an audiophile, was the one who suggested that maybe I should hit up Eavesdrop to see if they'd be interested in working together. This was a conversation I was pretty confident to get started because we work with EP Bar here in Hawaii, which is Hawaii's only vinyl listening bar. So I reached out to Eavesdrop via DM on Instagram. I showed them some of the projects that we've done over at EP Bar, and then we transferred the conversation to email. After a little bit of back and forth, we're able to get something set up. The second bar we're able to shoot in is known as the Clover Club. It's a bar that's been around for over 15 years. It's an iconic bar, and it's owned by none other than Julie Reiner, who is an industry titan, been in the game for decades, mentored thousands of bartenders. A lot of us look up to Julie and what she has done. Now, when it came to setting up a shoot at the Clover Club, luckily, Julie is a friend of mine, so I just reached out to her, let her know we're gonna be in town, and see if she'd be interested in shooting some videos with us. Julie actually owns 3 bars in New York City. We were originally planning to try and shoot at one of her other locations, but due to scheduling reasons, we had to settle on the Clover Club. And I'm being totally sarcastic when I say settle on the Clover Club. Not gonna lie, I was pretty stoked about it. I gotta be honest, I was approaching this from a path of least resistance type of mindset because I knew I'd be traveling by myself. All I brought with me was my wandered backpack with both of my cameras in it, all of my lenses. I stuffed the gimbal and the monitor and my Peak Design travel tripod into my check-in luggage. Of course, I had batteries and all that stuff with me, but that was the main kit that I would be traveling with. Now, when it came to lighting, I decided to rent lights in New York from Adorama. Luckily, my brother, Matty Brewster, who works out of the city, was able to help me facilitate the rental process. And to be quite honest, without his help, none of this was gonna be possible. The logistics of shooting out of state anywhere is pretty complex, but then you think about a place like New York City, and I mean, it's New York City, you know what I mean? One last thing about renting equipment from Adorama in New York is you wanna make sure when you go to pick it up, you go to the rental center, not to the store, because they are really not that close together, although they're both in Brooklyn. And as you probably guessed by now, we went to the store first and ended up having to go through New York City traffic to get to the rental center afterwards. Next thing we had to do was get to the locations, which were on 2 separate days. The last thing I wanted to think about was lugging around all this equipment, so I decided to call us an Uber both days to get back and forth. Now, I was staying with family in Harlem and needed to get to Brooklyn both days. And the round trip from Harlem to Brooklyn in an Uber is about $100. So it's definitely not cheap, but I'd say if you're traveling with thousands of dollars worth of equipment, it's a small price to pay. Now, after we got on location, I mean, we just set up and just, you know, did our usual thing, and I feel like we crushed it. Since coming home, I've decided to invest in a lot of things that would just streamline this process and basically relieve us from having to rent so much equipment in the future. Starting off with lights. So here at home, when we go on set and we shoot, we're typically using a Forza 500 with a 48-inch parabolic softbox. And this lighting setup is massive. I would never dare travel with it if I absolutely didn't have to. Now, before I left on a trip, I was already eyeing some of these way more portable lights by Zhiyun, which is the Mollis X100, the Mollis G200, and the G60, which is actually what I'm using right now to film this. I got the Mollis X100 over here as my key light, and I got the G60 over my shoulder here, just giving me a little bit of accent, a little bit of hair light. And the G200, which I also ordered, will be arriving hopefully soon. I don't know. I ordered it like a month ago, but that's just Hawaii shipping kind things. You know, it's kind of ironic. As I was breaking down the equipment from doing this shoot right here, I got a knock on the door and UPS had come and dropped this off. So we now have the G200. And one thing I didn't mention is that this actually has a boost mode that kicks it up to 300 watts. Pretty stoked on it. We'll talk about it more in upcoming videos and whatnot, but just kind of want to show you that the lighting kit is now complete. All right, back to the video. These lights are tiny. It's insane. The Malas X100 is literally the size of the camera body that I use. And the G60 is just a tiny little cube. That's a 100-watt light, a 60-watt light, and once the G200 arrives, we'll have a 200-watt light, which will all easily pack into our Nanook hard cases. They're also light enough to go on the lightweight stands that we use, which fold up really small and fit into a check-in luggage pretty easily. Been investing in fully collapsible diffusers like the Aperture 6090 and the Aperture 45 by 45. And in any pinch situations, we can always use a 5-in-1 panel as a makeshift scrim, if you will, to just kind of spread the light even further. Speaking of the Nanook hard cases, until a few days ago, I actually hadn't owned any hard cases whatsoever, which is honestly absurd to think that I've been in business now for a year and a half or so, and I've been traveling around, even for shoots on island, with all the camera gear in a collapsible beach cart from Costco and my backpack, pretty much. So Black Friday deals came in. We decided to order 2 Nanook 935 hard cases. They're carry-on approved, got these awesome wheels on them, and a really strong and powerful retractable handle, which I just tried it out earlier, and I put my Provoke backpack right on it, and it was the perfect setup. All the camera gear in the Nanook case and whatever other accessories in the backpack, and I can just wheel them around together, stacked on top of each other. Tyler would travel with the other Nanook case, which would probably have all the lighting equipment that I just spoke of inside of it. So yeah, that was basically my experience filming across the country for the first time. And we have an upcoming shoot on our neighbor island over on Maui in a few weeks, which is also why I kind of sped up this process of figuring out what can we do to make this a little bit better for next time. And honestly, I think after this Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal season, I feel pretty good about saying we have everything we need, which was really important because there are no rental houses on Maui. So we really had to figure out how are we gonna get the things that we need to do the job that we do off of this island. Let me know how you guys like to travel with gear, doing out-of-state shoots, getting on airplanes, because this is the first time I've done it. So I'm sure there's a lot I can learn from your experiences. So I don't know, leave it in the comments. All right, I'm out. Shoots.